Good evening, everybody. For those of you that have sent your greetings to me and I didn't respond, apologies, because I was officially muted. I'm not in control here of my own microphone. It's done for me. So welcome to everybody this evening. We're delighted you've decided to join us on this, the third and final day of an exciting Pewter Live 2021. This evening, we have a really exciting program of talks and panel discussions that have brought together a diverse range of expertise to discuss all things pewter, from students to experienced pewtersmiths and designers that we hope you will really enjoy the discussions. Just in case you don't know, I'm Chris Hudson, the current Master of the Worshipful Company of Pewters and Chairman of the ABPC, which is the Association of British Pewter Craftsmen. The first session this evening will be chaired by Isabel Martinson, who will explore the ways the ABPC, together with the Worshipful Company, has helped to establish British pewter firmly in both domestic and worldwide markets by promoting high standards, raising awareness, and also encouraging innovation and excellence in pewter manufacturing. The winners of Pewter Live 2021, a competition called the Roaring Twenties, will be announced in our last session this evening at 7 p.m. A tremendous effort and enthusiasm has gone into both the student and open competition, and a special thanks goes to all those who have entered the competition, as well as our sponsors and partners for their confidence in Pewter Live 2021. Our vision would not have become reality without the huge commitment and active contribution from universities, the sponsors, partners over many years. And I'd also like to mention the efforts of the staff here at Pewter's Hall, especially Lisa, Izzy and Sarah, who have been really making a huge effort to make this a great online success. As I've mentioned on other evenings, it might be the 33rd Pewter Live, but it is the first totally online event. So thank you to them. So we hope that this series of daily talks has given you the opportunity to learn about pewter and its qualities and its relevance to contemporary consumers of all ages and tastes. So without further ado, may I hand over to Isabel Martinson, who is a court assistant of this Worshipful Company of Pewters and chairman of the Pewter Promotion Committee, who will introduce our first session of the day. So over to you, Isabel.
Thank you, Master, and thank you all so much for joining us this evening, and a very warm welcome to Pewter Live 2021. Last year, when Chris became the Master of the Worshipful Company of Pewters, and I was invited to be the chairman of the company's Pewter Promotion Committee, the Master asked me to bring together the trade to ask them what they wanted from the Association of British Pewter Craftsmen, the ABPC, so that we could better understand how the association should move forward. I held 2 meetings via Zoom, 2 last November and a follow-up meeting in January, and a number of things became clear. There was significant support for and value in being a member of ABPC. There was a real enthusiasm and a commitment to engage and share information, to be part of a Pewterers community. And those of you who have attended these live events during Pewter Live will have seen this in action. That now was the time to reset the association, to tap into the energy and enthusiasm of those engaged to keep up the momentum. It was clear that the association should focus on 2 key functions. 1, it should promote pewter and pewterers and provide education to the trade and the outside world of the beauty and versatility of the material, its easy maintenance, and that it no longer contains lead. This via a comprehensive and highly functioning website and appropriate social media platforms. The second thing it should do would be to create a professional and social community to bring together those already involved in pewter, whether they be existing or aspiring craft workers, manufacturers, collectors, enthusiasts, and or supporters, to share their knowledge, experience, and ideas through an online forum and physical events. This event, albeit online, is the first of such event. And it was Master Chris who suggested a Pewter's question time, a bit like Gardener's question time, in an event that in a moment I will introduce you to our wonderful panel of experienced Pewterers who will share their stories with you and answer any questions that they may have. At the end of this session, I will briefly outline the steps for the development of the new ABPC website for launch at another event in the autumn, when we will invite companies and individuals to join the association. So as we start the panel discussions, please do submit any questions you may have to our assistant clerk, Elisa Franco, via the chat box. Also, we're very keen to gather expressions of interests from those of you who would like to consider joining the reinvigorated ABPC. So please may I also ask you to email Elisa with your details to info@pewterers.org.uk, and Elisa will put that address up on the chat shortly. So I'm now delighted to introduce you to our panel. If you were with us on Tuesday, you will have seen Fleur Grenier showing us around her workshop in West Sussex and how she creates the beautiful gifts and sculptures that she makes. Ed Glover of Glover and Smith is also a very popular pewtersmith whose ever-evolving accessible pieces have generated an ever-growing following of collectors. Michael Pinder is from the manufacturing family Pinder Brothers in Sheffield. And Trish Woods is a highly regarded pewter jeweller who's invented her own way of colouring pewter to wonderful effect. Each of them is going to talk for 5 minutes about how they got into pewter, what inspires them about pewter, their journey, any mishaps along the way, their successes and their position now. And then I'll open up for questions. So starting with Fleur. Fleur, over to you.
Hello, thank you, Isabel. Some of you may have heard my talk on Tuesday, and if I do repeat some of the bits, I do apologise, but hopefully there will be some fresh information in there here for you. But I was initially, I've worked as a designer and pewtersmith now for just under 30 years, after first being introduced to it while doing my degree at Sir John Cass in London. And we were given a project while I was in my second year. And at the time, my work was very sort of curvaceous forms and very fluid lines. And I found that I could, if I modelled them in clay and then made moulds and cast them in pewter, that it worked perfectly to achieve this. And that was really where my passion for pewter began. And then once I'd completed my degree, I was very lucky to receive a place at the Royal College of Art. And this really gave me the opportunity to continue to develop my personal style of design, but also to explore more of the pewter techniques that you could use, the processes that you could use. And that's really what's led me up to where I am today. So you can see behind me, I'm in my studio, Metal Studios in Angmering, where I've been here for 15 years. There are two elements to my work. Well, there are various elements to my work, I should say. Sorry, there's my homeware range, which is my Maris pieces. And these are inspired by, I did lots of drawings of seaweed. I live very near to the beach. So you can see on these pieces here, there's a very fluid style and a lot of movement with the pieces, which is sort of my signature style. But these pieces, even if I use different influences from my work, this fluidity and movement is always in because it's my own personal signature. And the second element to my work is my sculptural work. And for this, I've explored using lots of other materials, combining it with the pewter. But it's been, with pewter always being at the heart, it must always complement the pewter. And you can see a couple of images here that's coming up. There's a collection called Childhood Games, and this piece, the Conquer, it's called Sixer, that hopefully will come up And this was the idea of finding the perfect conker feed to use. I don't know, Lisa, is that coming? Can that come up larger on the screen? The 601. Yeah. Well, hopefully that's. Yes, well, this is the second one, actually. This was Buttercup. I don't know if you can go back one image, Lisa, and I could just show. You can see here that this one was actually the idea of when you were a child and you used to put the buttercup under your chin, and it would, if it went yellow, you liked butter. I mean, this is it on a much bigger scale. So this piece here, it was an adult or a child could stand in front of the buttercup, and which is made in pewter that's gold plated, and it would reflect back into your whole face. So your whole face became yellow and glowing. The pieces, which it's a series of work called Home, and this is exploring what home is, not just that it's something made in bricks and mortar, but it can be like the pieces coming up here. You can see there's a honeybee. Is it coming up? Yeah, is there a honeybee image just there? Yeah, I mean, I use actually using the concrete has also enabled me to work on a much bigger scale as well. So the idea of home, it's not just that, like I was saying, it's bricks and mortar to the bee. It's where it stays. It's in its honeycomb. And the next one you can see it's the leafcutter ants marching into their nest, and so that's their home. And the one just next is spinning whirligig beetles. So they're spinning around on their pond, and to them, that's their home. There are two other important elements to my work, and one is teaching, and the other is commissions. There are not many pewter smiths, and so it's important to me that these skills continue to be taught and passed on. I trained as a silversmith, and there is a crossover of skills. But pewter is a different material. It's softer, it needs different solders and fluxes. But once you've mastered these skills, I mean, as you'll have seen, if you've heard the talks this week, you can see there are so many different processes and so many possibilities with it. It's just such a lovely material to work with. Then finally, the last element of my work is my commissions. I really enjoy working to commissions, as they're sort of milestones. They can be milestones in people's lives. It could be a 10th wedding anniversary, which pewter is perfect for because it's predominantly tin, and in the UK, that's the element that we know as for celebrating that wedding anniversary. And this piece that's just coming up here, you can see I was commissioned to make a set of candlesticks for a gentleman who'd proposed to his wife by the cascading fountain in Olnick Gardens. Sorry, I forgot the bit about my book. But you can see here that there's he wanted to celebrate that moment where he proposed to her by the cascading fountain. So it was reproducing those shapes. And the next piece here, some of the commissions can be really personal pieces. And this piece here was for a couple who'd sadly lost their baby, and they wanted me to make an urn for his ashes. And this was such a sensitive piece and an important piece to make, as the baby was obviously so precious to them. And I had a huge responsibility with this piece to make something befitting to protect the little baby boy that they had lost and was so important to them. The other element of the work, of the commissions, it could be a ceremonial piece, such as this amazing recent commission which I had, which was to produce a bishop's crozier for the Bishop of Stepney. Creating pieces like this that will be used for many, many years with my name stamped on it, it's a great honour, and to know that in the future it will be continued to be used beyond when I'm here. And you can see there's just using it. And that's it. If you'd like to see it, there is obviously more information on the Pewter Live website. So if you want to know more, but thank you, Izzy.
Thank you very much indeed, Fleur. That's absolutely fascinating. You've told us different things tonight than you've told us before, so thank you. Particularly that moving story about the couple with their baby. So thank you. And now I'd like to hand over to Ed Glover from Glover and Smith. So over to you, Ed.
Thank you, Isabel. Sorry about the name underneath me, but in logging on tonight, I had to use my wife's Google account, and therefore, anyway. My route to Pewter. I after A levels, I did an art foundation course, as many of us did. I did the foundation course expecting to learn about furniture design, but having got there, it had a very, very good photography department. So I ended up doing my degree in photography at Farnham Art College, or the UCA Farnham it's now, but it was West Surrey College or whatever. So that's my degree. After that, I did a bit of teaching and a bit of running a dark room. Photography in the 80s was a dark art, really. Lots of chemicals and expensive materials and silver and all sorts of things. And in the early 90s, I went self-employed and found myself photographing a lot of small businesses and people making things. A lot of interiors, working with interior designers, and cut a long story short, in about 91, my wife and I bought our first house, and it was a wreck. And I had to build a kitchen. I couldn't afford to go and buy one, but I could put wood through my books as a, because I was building room sets and things like that. So I built a kitchen. Having built the kitchen, I came to buy the handles, and the ones I wanted were about 500 quid. So I thought, I've built the cupboards, so I'm going to make the handles as well. One of the companies that I did a photography job for was a Pewter company. So I'd been nosing around their workshop for weeks and soaking things up like a sponge. So I got in the car and I went to a place called Alec Taranti, which is near Reading, which is sculpture suppliers. And for 35 quid, they did a starter kit for making a silicon rubber mold. So I invested my £35 and I made a cupboard handle based on a garden snail. So I took a garden snail, I used some milliput and this and that, and I made some handles. I then started I put a couple in my pocket, and when I went out on a photography job with an interior designer, I'd sort of whip them out and say, what do you think of these? And they would all say, well, we can start selling these tomorrow. So I had a chat with the wife, and we came up with 10 designs of door handle. My wife picked up the phone to Liberty, booked an appointment to come and show them. And within a week, we had a display board up on the 4th floor of Liberty's, the hole in the wall or something it was called. And we started getting orders. So we made more designs. And for the first 5 years, so this is about 94 to 99, we made nothing but door handles. And it was okay, it was hard work. We had 2 employees by then, I think. And then we got copied. Some bright spark in Taiwan brought our designs, dipped in a gloopy substance, and brought them in by container load. So that market was a bit stuffed for a while. So then we thought, what else can we make out of pewter? Because obviously we'd learnt a lot along the way. And then we designed a range of picture frames. Now, one thing I'll say is picture frames is a difficult thing to do, because you can make a picture frame out of wood, out of metal, out of ivory, out of pallets, and it's a very, very competitive place to be. So we ran the picture frames for about another 5 years, and then I started really designing things which you could only make in pewter or silver, and this becomes a unique thing, really. We did lots of designs based on nature, based on the British countryside and heritage. So that's what we still do today, 20 whatever years on. I'm sure there's something else I was going to say. But we now employ 4 people, and the last year's been a bit tricky. Oh, thank you. That's personalised trinket box. So you turn the lid over and we can hand stamp underneath. Yeah. Last year, yes. What we did have going into the pandemic was quite a healthy mail order system. The orders from our 200 shops sort of ceased to exist for a while. They're coming back now slowly. But we just channeled all our efforts into mail order. We make a lot of sugar spoons and jar spoons that hang on a jar as well. Thank you for doing this, whoever's doing this, because I didn't know it was possible. But that's a good choice as well. I think my time might be up. Well, not ultimately, I hope. But, thank you, Isabel.
Oh, that's brilliant, Ed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And you know, in all the years I've known you, I didn't know half of this of your background. Absolutely fascinating.
Dark horse.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to hand over to Michael Pinder now. So over to you, Michael. Tell us your story.
Right. Hello, I'm Michael Pinder from Pinder Brothers. We're a family business in Sheffield. We've been a family business since 1877. So we've been around 144 years. We manufacture pewterware, cutlery and silverware. We export to over 30 countries worldwide. We manufacture, well, when I first started, we manufactured tankards. That was the main item we made back then. Our best seller now is hip flasks. We sell quite a lot of hip flasks. Another good seller is quake bowls. We sell pewter quake bowls to Scotland. It's a traditional drinking vessel, which is very popular for weddings and the tourist trade. We do well with Charles cans as well. And with the price of metal being quite high, we've gone into glass and pewter, a mixture of both, and that's going quite well for us as well at the moment. I was really born into pewter. I've really been, I left school and came to the family business, so I've sort of been here. Yeah, I was born into pewter really. Also silver as well. I prefer pewter because it's a soft metal. The tooling costs are quite low, so you can make so many different items from it, and you can be very creative. And if you make a mess of anything, you can put it in the melting pot and start again, which is quite good. We're located in Sheffield City Centre at Sheaf Plate Works, which we've been here since 1939. It's a creative hub as well. We've got over 30 artisan studios in the building as well. So we've got blacksmiths, silversmiths, people making furniture, wood, photographers, many different skill sets, a lot of young people as well, which is great for the building. And we've been members of the APPC for many years, and it's been great to network and share problems that come up from time to time. And that's that's basically a rough idea of what we do here.
Brilliant. Thank you, Michael. Again, another fascinating insight to a manufacturer. So thank you for that. So finally, I'm going to hand over to Trish. Trish, over to you, please.
Nice to see you. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. I was so intent listening to everybody else. I forgot what I wanted to say. I started my life as a metalsmith at Loughborough College of Art. I studied silversmithing. And really, it's all that silversmithing that informs the work that I do today. After I finished university, I was a bit stuck for what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to be an air hostess at one point, but that never happened. I was too short. And then I became a a tutor, which I never thought I would go into teaching, but I sort of found myself teaching, and I ended up teaching for 35 years. I ran a design and maker program down in Devon, and it was whilst we were teaching, I run jewellery silversmithing and design, and it was always there. We were looking around for a really good competition that the students could get their teeth into. It was something a bit different, and I came across Pewter Live. This was a long time ago. And we had brilliant fun with it. We started to make all sorts of things with the student. And because I had no experience of working with pewter, I was very much a copper and silversmith, we had no preconceptions. So we used to invent all sorts of things and play around with techniques and do things wrong and get wonderful results and then learn how to make it right. And we had a really good time, and quite a few of the students actually won some of the Pewter Live competitions. So that was really good. And then as I'm working with it, I got to absolutely adore the material, much more than any metal that I've worked with. It was so malleable, and it's got a luster. It works really well with jewellery because it's warm against the body, and it's great with interactive objects. So my work, so after about 30 odd years, I decided to pack the teaching in and set my studio up at full time. I just finished a PhD because I'm very interested in colour. And I explored different ways of exploiting the surface of pewter using colour. I developed a patination process, which is an integral part of my work. And these days my work fits into two strands. I make jewellery and giftware. The one strand is the application of colour in some ways. So it's patination, and I use lacquer works, different coloured lacquers, and I use gilding techniques, but not gold. I use all sorts of coloured gilding techniques, and that works. So that's one strand of my work. The other strand, as you can see with that's the chemical patination from the PhD and all these. I don't think that there might be, I don't think there are any images of the lacquer work, although I have a piece behind me, so you can see it's very different, that little piece, these little dishes that I make. I made earrings. And the other strand is I love acrylic, so I start to put acrylic into my work. I was commissioned by South Devon College to make their ceremonial mace. I don't know if Elisa got the photographs, but they are available on my website under the special projects. And with the ceremonial mace, I was integrating light reflective acrylic. And because I always work in sheet form, there it is, yeah. Because I always work in sheet form, it's those silversmithing techniques. I don't cast, it's always sheet, and I do everything at the bench. And my bench is quite small now because I moved up to Liverpool, and I've got a tiny bench in the workshop, everything happens there. But anyway, the acrylic work I still work with. I make jewellery with acrylic, and I like to experiment with it. So this is a larger piece, and I'm beginning to realise I'm getting more and more into interactive functional wear, and I'm getting bigger and bigger. So I'm really interested to see where the work's going to go next. And like I say, these little jugs. So I'm getting quite excited with these little objects that you can interact with, although I still do the jewellery, obviously. And that's where I am at the moment. So, yeah.
Brilliant, Trish. Thank you again. Another fascinating insight into your background, which we weren't aware of. And I want to thank you for your support of Pewter Live over many years, bringing students to it, and then getting involved yourself. Absolutely fantastic. So it's time now to open up for some questions from the audience. And I'm having to ask Elisa, because when I'm doing this from home, I can look at the chat myself, but I can't do it here. So Elisa, have we got any questions for the panel at this stage?
Question, I believe, is for Ed. Nicole said that she loved the spoons that I might have shown earlier from your website, and she's asking, is that okay? Are they okay with pickles because it's a little acidic? Sorry, you're on mute, Ed. I'm sorry.
Hello. Hi. As far as I'm aware, they're fine. We've been selling spoons for nearly 20 years, and my inbox isn't full of complaints. That's all I can tell you.
Thank you for that. Oh, am I on? Am I?
Okay, yes.
Yep. Thank you very much indeed for that, Ed. Actually, I've got a number of your marmalade spoons, but I think I haven't tried it with pickles. So, but they all work. So thank you. Any other questions coming in? Actually, I can see a number, but I can't see what they are.
So Stephanie is asking from Belgium, are there any issues with international marketing of pewter? Do different countries have different standards?
Yes, they do. Oops. Yes, they do have different standards. Japan has a different standard. We find California has a different standard. So different mixes of metal are required in different countries. So you have to be careful before you sell to any markets to ensure that the mix of the metal is correct for that certain market. And the main ones are Japan, France, and California in the USA.
Very interesting. Any more comment to that? Ed, are you aware of any other standard of any country?
I'm not privy to that sort of information. I've never had to find it out, so I'm not aware of any problems.
So you mainly sell to people buying from the UK, so you'd say that?
Yeah, I mean, we send our stuff all over the world, but we don't really have that many trade accounts abroad. So it's just individuals buying their beautiful spoons and limited edition bowls, which I forgot to show earlier. But that's my latest thing.
I have a question and also a couple of comments for Trish. Angie is saying that she has been experimenting with color on pewter lately. And apart from antiquing solution, what other ways are there to add color to pewter? And also she's saying that she's one of your former students.
Students. I'm not sure if she's one of mine. Well, anyway, if she was, hello.
Claire, former student.
Yeah. Color. Okay. Well, obviously, the color process most of the color process I use is a chemical patination, which is really a really strange concoction of chemicals that I wouldn't recommend anybody tries at home. You need all sorts of extraction, and I don't do as much as I used to because I'm scared it's going to burn my brain out at one point. But anyway, there are very simple ways that you can get color. You can use lacquers. The Japanese have a wonderful technique where they mix metal oxide powders with lacquers and layer it up on this. If you've etched a piece of metal and you layer up the colored oxide lacquers onto it, you can polish back so that the high points of the etch are polished and the low points maintain this lovely subtle nature-like colors. So that's one way of doing it. One thing they put on, they'll use a lacquer with iron oxide, which gives you a pinky color, and copper carbonate, which gives you a greeny color. And the trick is just experiment. And things like, just simple things like nail varnish. You can, if you've got lovely little things and you want flashes of color, there's some fantastic nail varnishes out there. You get translucent nail varnishes and whatever, and you can work it over and stop use stencils to stop out some of the surface of the metal, so you're only getting the color on some bits. And I think my advice, anybody that wants to play with color, is play. Don't think that there's any one right process or anything. Just get anything you've got that gives color and play with it. See what you get.
Good. Thanks, Trish. Elisa, I've got a couple of questions that have come in as well. I'm going to move to Fleur now, because obviously someone was watching you the other day and they're asking, where's your next flight of fancy after leaf cutter anks and frog spawn?
With the frog spawn one, yeah, that was my latest one, but I've actually got some drawings. I've just been commissioned to do another honeybee one, so that's working slightly differently with the concrete, so I'm really excited about doing that one. But I have also got a sketchbook full of ideas. There's one at the back of my mind that I've got it's actually a dung beetle, but it's rolling a ball. So I really want to try and do that on a much larger scale with it, and actually having the ball that it's rolling along made in the concrete. So yeah, it's amazing. Once you start, you can sort of see inspiration everywhere.
And going back to Trish, but I don't want to leave Michael and Ed out, who both added some really interesting things. But Trish, you've talked about moving away from your smaller jewellery to some larger pieces, and yet you're working out of quite a small space now. So someone was asking, do you see more moving into larger pieces? Trish, I think you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Oh, am I?
No, you're not now.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't think I'll give up jewellery completely, because as I said, I do crafts fairs, and it's a commercial element. It allows people to take a little bit of what I do away with them without having to invest in some very complex piece. But I think because, I sort of semi-retired a little bit, and I think I've reached a point where I'm ready to experiment with my forms a lot more, and get back into the surface and texture and applying that. I do like working sculpturally. I think it's the silversmith in me. Although I can't raise vessels as much anymore because I've done my necking, just bending and folding and building up structures. I like that idea of scale. And I'm starting to like that idea of an impact. I want people to come and look at the work and go, my God, that an impact piece. And maybe that'll be my swan song. I don't know.
I believe, Elisa, you've got a question that's come in from someone. I'm not sure who it's for.
Yes, it is actually for both Michael and Ed. So the question is, have you seen a difference in public taste for your pewter products over the past few years? Has anything changed?
That's a tricky one. Not especially is my gut reaction. We design things based on nature, and they don't have a sort of they're never in fashion, but therefore they're never out of fashion. So they have a life to them. They're not old fashioned. They're quite contemporary, and they seem to work year on year. Yeah, no real trends.
That's great. What about you, Michael?
We found a few trends. We sell in quite large volume in the retail trade, and price points are quite important. And we used to do a lot of pewter tankards, but the price of tin is at record highs now. So the sale of pewter tankards has declined over the last few years, and hip flasks are very popular at the moment because they've got a lower price point because there's less tin content in them. So probably hip flasks are quite popular at the moment, and also due to the high price of tin, I think a combination of pewter and say glass or wood is for the larger pieces. Something I think is going to be a future trend as well.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, we're sort of coming up to the end of the time, and I've got a question that my panelists, I have primed them beforehand, if they've got any top tips for the audience, those who are looking to do pewter or learn more. So I'm going to start with Fleur. What's your top tip?
It's really just to, and don't be afraid, and just really explore and have a go with the pewter. As I was saying, and probably if you've been listening to the talks and you saw Amy's talk the other day, you really need minimal equipment to create some really beautiful, interesting pieces. I think that in comparison to other materials such as silver, pewter, it has a relatively low cost, and so it actually gives you a great freedom with it, using it as well. So for my pieces, I can. They would be really expensive to produce if I were to do them in silver, and you'd probably have that little bit of fear about it going wrong and something could happen. Whereas if it can be melted back down and you can start again, and I can do all the mold making, pattern making, everything myself. It satisfies that control freak in me. It's just that being able to explore and do it all yourself, it's just really worth just giving it a go. I mean, I've actually this year, at the beginning of the year, I said I was going to set half a day aside a month and just to play with the metal again, because after such a long period of time and focusing on key areas of work, I just want to go back to actually exploring it a bit more. And it may be things that in the past I've done a little bit, but just to have another go and try new things with it. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Ed, your top tip.
Right, I would like to repeat everything Fleur said very eloquently, but if you're photographing pewter or any sort of reflective luster object, just remember that you're photographing what's next to it. You're not really photographing the pewter. So if you've got a blue wall next to your whatever it is, you're going to get a blue pewter, whatever it is. So yeah, it's the same with glass. It's the same with anything reflective. Be aware of what's next to it, and you can use white and black or whatever to control how the thing looks in the end. The second top tip, Facebook advertising, we find very good.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Ed. Great tips there. Michael, I think please.
Well, again, as Fleur said, just go for it with pewterware, because if you make a mess of it, you can just put it in the melting pot and start again. So it's a great metal to experiment with. And as I've mentioned before, the price of metal is quite high at the moment. So with jewellery, that's fine, but with larger pieces, perhaps mix it with concrete, glass or wood. So those are my top tips.
Thank you. And finally, Trish.
Yeah, soldering. Practice soldering. And it's really, when you learn to solder pewter, it's easy. But in the early days, especially like this is to the students that have been doing jewellery and silversmithing, when you're working with silver and copper and things, when you're soldering or silver soldering, you heat the metal up, and when the metal gets to the right temperature, the solder flows. And you're talking about, getting the metal up to red hot. Pewter is the complete opposite. So you're aiming not to heat the actual product, you're aiming to heat the solder, and the difference between the melting point and the solder and the melting point of the metal is negligible. It's just a few degrees. So I always used to recommend my students just get a pile of scrap and pull it all together and just test your soldering until you felt comfortable. I use one of these for absolutely everything. I can just flick the flame and that's it. It doesn't matter how big the piece is. I still use this little torch because I don't get a mad amount of heat. And one little trick I learned from early industry when I was researching pewter techniques, especially during my PhD, looking at 17th, 18th, 19th century manufacturing. And I think some of the old guys of the early 20th century, and I do it now. If you've got a really complicated piece, if you wet paper, pack your object with paper, but keep the seam exposed, you're keeping the metal cool. And so there's less chance of it deciding to turn into a puddle. Or you can do damp rags or clay, anything to keep it cool.
That's brilliant, Trish. Well, I have to say thank you, the four of you, for really fascinating insights into your background and what you're doing, and also some fantastic tips for those who are doing with pewter at the moment. So thank you very much indeed. And can I just remind you, please don't forget to, if you're interested in joining the ABPC later this year, please do email Elisa. I think she's put something up on the chat, so you know where to go next. So I am now going to hand over to Trish because she is going to have a conversation with the students. And we are really delighted to welcome some of the students who have entered this year's competition. As we've heard, the student competition is tremendously popular with a number of colleges around the UK. And as a result, Pewter design is now well established on the curriculum of their art and design courses, and several have engineering departments that have also been developing new tools and techniques to aid manufacture. So over the past few years, well over 30 new Pewter products have been brought to market as a direct result of Pewter Live. And we know a number of Lord Mayors have selected Pewter as their gift to take around the world with them. So it's been absolutely fantastic for our Pewterers. During this session, our assistant clerk, Elisa Franco, will share her screen and show you some of the students' entries. So please ensure that you turn your screen off just to show the speaker view. So over to you, Trish.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Issy. I was really touched to be asked to do this little bit with the students, because obviously I've got that natural sort of being a teacher for 35 years. I'm always interested in what students want to do. So yeah, this I'm really looking forward to seeing the students' response. So what we thought we'd do, and I've spoken to Elisa about this as well, is we'll work our way through you all. I've got you in order. Just find out, tell us a little bit more. We'll ask you a couple of questions on the way. And then at the end, after we've spoken to the students, it'd be nice to speak to a tutor. So it's a tutor from Bucks University, Stephen Sheffield, to get a tutor's viewpoint on entering Pewter Live and how it affects the college when they're all bashing away with pewter and not silver. So if we can, it'd be nice to meet Ben Vass. He's studying product design at Buckinghamshire New University. And he's done a really interesting piece. Obviously, I've looked at everything. That's called Serendipity. So I don't know, Ben, if you'd like to share with us where your ideas came from and what your piece is about.
Well, originally, my project was going to be completely different. I was designing a Art Deco letter rack and opener, but because of COVID, we had some issues trying to get it made with our workshop times. And one of the corners we tried to cut actually ended up making this crystallized bit of pewter. And with time running out, I decided to turn that into my new project, as shown on screen. So I tried to make a pendant for it to fit around, but unfortunately I ran out of time before I could actually get everything done. But yeah, it was just by accident that pewter crystallized.
I think it's lovely. I mean, I found that with, the idea of the happy accident. I mean, now that you've seen it, I mean, it's quite intriguing, the surface. I mean, have you thought about maybe trying to take it further or seeing if you can control that crystallization, which is not easy, but had any thoughts about where it might go from here?
Yeah, we're trying to reproduce it, but yeah, we are going through different experiments here and trying to reproduce it, and we're getting closer and closer. And yeah, it would be fun to explore it a bit more.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to see if you can actually produce form from it once you start to cast. I mean, I'm looking forward. Hopefully I'll see your name. Looking forward to see what you actually do. Have you enjoyed the process?
Yeah, I really do enjoy working with precious metals, but doing product design we don't get to do it too often. So this has been fun, and yeah, just working with pewter has always been fun, just being able to melt things down, and yeah, just very interesting.
Yeah, like you say, play and see what happens. Okay, that's lovely. That's lovely. Our next student is also a product design student from Buckinghamshire New University, and it's Charlotte Newton. Is it Newton?
Yes.
Charlotte Newton? Yeah, I got the name right. Right, you've produced quite an amazing punch bowl,
Yes.
and utilised ceramic and pewter. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, so I started Bucks New with a passion for ceramics, and ever since I've always been really interested in sort of combining different materials together. And yeah, Pewter Live was definitely a perfect opportunity to see how I could combine pewter and ceramics together. So I sort of started thinking, what can I make? Instantly thought of a punch bowl, very 1920s. And then I started looking into events, and I found there was a Mississippi river crisis in 1927, which I found particularly interesting. So I sort of wanted to link that to the 2020 and the pollution that's going on. So as you can see on my piece, I carved little river inlays of 2020's most polluted rivers. But yeah, it was a lot of trial and error. My process changed about 20 times trying to make this thing, because trying to, you know, pour hot metal onto ceramics, as you can imagine, it would absolutely shatter to pieces. And it did a few times. There were a few tears, but yeah, as you can see, it turned out like this. And I have a sort of conical stand that the bowl sits on, and yeah, and a pewter rim as well.
Yeah, I think you've done really well. I do know how difficult it is to get pewter bonded to the surface of ceramics. It tends to bond much nicer to the glaze than it does.
Yeah, which is not what you want. So.
I don't know if you did any research about Chinese, because they often, when they had cracks in their work, they would pour.
Kintsugi, yeah.
Did you find that? Yeah, that's quite fascinating. I mean, your work reminded me of that a little bit. Do you think it's inspired you to do more?
Yeah, definitely. It was a huge learning curve, and never worked with pewter before. And I loved trying to figure out the process as I went along, and it was, yeah, really interesting to work with. So I would like to do that more with ceramics and sort of perfect the process. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one little technical thing I was looking. I don't know if I got it right, but did you cast the inlays and then fix them to the bowl?
So I casted the bowl, carved out the river inlays, and then I actually cut up tiny bits of pewter and inserted them into the inlays at an angle, and used a little butane torch to heat it up. And I had to continuously heat the ceramic bowl in a kiln to keep it hot so it wouldn't crack. Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Oh, sorry. A massive learning curve for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, brilliant. Okay, well, it's really interesting, and I'd like to think that you do some more. Yeah, because I think and that relationship between the ceramics and the pewter is really quite fascinating.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So thank you. So we now have Georgia Bassam.
It's Georgia Basham.
Oh, sorry, Georgia Basham. I'm
That's
sorry.
all right.
I'm sorry. And
you're a third surname.
That's okay. So you're a third year student from De Montfort University in Leicester. Is that right?
I am. Yeah, and much like Charlotte, I went into university and I just loved ceramics. And from year one, I was doing mixed media ceramics and sort of creating found objects and combining them with my work. And it was just so lovely. And I just really wanted to incorporate my passion for ceramics within a pewter brief. So I have my piece here actually. So it's a ceramic insert that goes into a pewter casing. And this was really inspired by the Art Deco movement, which was really prevalent in the 1920s. So I kind of incorporated the bold geometric lines at the time, and sort of the more organic sort of scallop shapes that were really fashionable back then and still are very fashionable. So here are sort of like my design boards and sort of my like CAD work to just show my concept art. And then so this was handmade in the workshops, and long time appreciator of pewter, but first time user, much like the other students here. So it was a bit daunting, but I used sort of a wax lost mold, which I think is quite a well-used method within pewter, but it created a really nice result. And then this goes with a little pewter dish to sit in. So yeah, that's my piece.
Your wax model.
Pardon?
Your wax model must have been incredibly fine, because you've got to get those geometric, so perfect geometric patterns in there is quite a skill. It took quite a while.
Yes,
I can appreciate it. How did you find out about Pewter Live?
In second year of university, we're encouraged to look for live briefs, and I was put on to Pewter, and I just saw the brief and I knew that it was something that I was really going to love working with, because I just love the Art Deco movement basically, and this was something that I felt I could really work with. Just seeing the brief, it was just like sparked inspiration instantly.
Yeah, well, I think you've done a marvelous piece. And,
oh, thank you.
Hopefully, it's inspired you to do more. Do you ever see yourself taking part in the open competition?
I haven't thought about it yet, but we'll see how this one goes. I've really loved using it, and to combine it with ceramics, I think the juxtaposition of textures and materials, I think they really showcase each other. So I mean, even just sort of the white on the really lovely polished pewter, I just think it makes both elements sing.
And it also looks a very commercial piece. I mean, I don't know if your tutors have encouraged you to look further afield about how these things can enter a wider market. Maybe that's something.
Yeah, he's said, my tutor is Rajesh Gogna, who won about 25 years ago, I think, in the student competition. He just saw my design and said, oh, you really need to enter this and just make it and just have a go. So I'm very grateful to him that he suggested that I entered it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today.
Oh, that's lovely. That's been great talking to you. Thanks so
much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, I've just been informed we're able to talk to Leslie Stone next.
Hi.
It's Leslie. Hello, Leslie. Sorry?
It's Leslie.
Leslie. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah,
now, I understand.
Martin Page says hello.
Okay, give him my love. Yeah, it's a long time since I've seen Martin. Which brings us to that point that you're from Truro College.
Yes, I am.
They've done really well over the years at Pewter Live. So is it that tradition that's brought you to do the competition this year?
Well, we had to do it, Pewter, as part of our batch production techniques in the second year. So we were experimenting initially with it in casting. And obviously you can cast things or you can do something else. And when we got to the stage where we were learning about fly pressing, I found this affinity with the fly press that I never knew existed because I've never used one before. So I thought, I'll try it with the pewter because the pewter is lovely and malleable and it'll give me a good impression. So when we were doing the experimental pieces for batch production, I started to do that. And then Martin said, well, have you thought about doing something with it to do with Pewter Live? And that's when I started to think, well, what could I do? In looking at the brief and fascinated by the repeating patterns that you were getting back in the 1920s and 30s. And MC Escher has always been amazing because you get all these birds going in different directions and they don't actually look like birds because it's all intermingled. And on the way home, driving home, I actually saw a murmuration of starlings and it just went boing and the inspiration hit in. So I thought maybe I could do something with a fly press with a bird. So that's what I did. I ended up initially making the outside edges and working out how to put the wings in. So the wings were, I cut a form out of mild steel and then placed a piece of wire, just a piece of wire inside, and then pressed through to make the form. And then was trying to work out how to do the backs. So the backs was more complicated because I needed to be able to thread it somehow because I didn't want to just put a jump ring or something on the back. I wanted to do something that's a bit more inventive. So I actually used a way of making push out pieces by using a Roger Taylor blanking die. So I learned how to do the Roger Taylor blanking dies by cutting it out myself on the thing. I can actually show you. I don't know if you've got it, but you can see. So basically, cutting out the blanking die to get the backs. And then what I did from there is with the piece that was cut out, so say your piece was cut out, I put a nail in from beak to tail and then pressed that through the fly press. So that made your back piece. And then it was a matter of soldering the two pieces together. And like you say, the soldering's a special event.
Yes, definitely.
Very gentle brush, but actually, because I was making so many of them, it literally started to flow. So it was just one of those sort of light bulb moments of something coming together and making these little birds, and then thinking, how can I put them together? And there's so many different formations you can use with them, from a single bird up to multiples in all different directions, all different ways. So you could do it for all kinds of occasions. So I've carried on doing little birds, but in all sorts of metals as well as pewter. So that was the sort of first time with pewter. And then after that, there was an initiative that came through because of COVID about the NHS and a way of giving medals to say thank you. And it was an international initiative from jewelers just put out there to say, why don't we make hand medals, literally little hands that can be given to people, but basically there's no sort of markings of yourself on there. It's a way of saying thank you for what they've done within the COVID epidemic for NHS workers and care workers and emergency services. So I actually sent off 10 little hands, and they were all made out of pewter. So I hand pierced the hands. So I know that somewhere in the world somebody's wearing those, and it's just a way of giving back, really. And they were sort of done free of charge to sort of hand out hands across the world.
That's lovely, and it's so nice to think that.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Oh, sorry, I don't know if it's my speaker. It's not very loud. I just think it's so lovely when you were talking about, where you've been inspired to make more stuff out of pewter, since you've learnt that technique, and that's lovely. It really is lovely. I was just curious with the actual design. I mean, I can see the Escher in it, because I can see in my head now those lovely patterns that Escher does with the birds and their negative, positive, back, forward, all over the place. I was just curious, the beadwork, was that conscious effort with those colours? Because they're very subtle, aren't they? They move from blues to greens.
It was meant to be conscious effort because I wanted to thread them, and initially I thought about doing it just on very fine wire or on see-through acrylic or something so they looked like they were floating, and I thought, no, it doesn't feel right. And I wanted something fine but wouldn't overwhelm the pewter. And the Miyuki beads, the little Japanese glass Miyuki beads, very fine, and they've got the most amazing colours. And I thought if I did it so it looked almost like the colours of the flock, because when they're flying, you get different colours within the flock in the sky. So that was the idea with the beads, was for it to be random, but sort of following through with the patterns of the sky.
Lovely. Yeah.
Sorry, you've gone again.
It's because I keep leaning back in my chair, I think, and moving away from the microphone. Yeah, absolutely lovely, Leslie, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
The beads, the colours of the beads are exquisite.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I think, hopefully I'm right, I think the next student to talk to us is Liberty Lynn. Am I right?
Yes, you are.
Good. Is she there?
Yes,
I'm here.
Hello, Liberty. I can't see you yet, but never mind. We can chat. I note that you're an MA student from Camberwell.
Yes, and I've started my course in last year, September, and it's a 1-year course with no breaks. So I had to work quite hard to sort of manage to get my design and my ideas done in real life.
Did you get hold? I mean, why did you do the pewter brief? I suppose is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, and because when I did my second year BA, one of my course leader saying, "Oh, Liberty, I thought your design is really suitable for casting in pewter, because pewter is easier to manage and have a relatively low melting point." so that I can, instead of doing a sort of a time-consuming bronze cast, so I make a silicon mold and I produce quick ideas and quick examples in Pewter. And it helps me sort of visualize my idea and to show it to people like in a straightforward way. Especially during that time, I was doing a live project with a museum called St. John Museum in London. And because we have to do a presentation like very often. So each time I came up with the idea and I 3D printed out in Pewter, and then I 3D printed out in PLA. Sorry, I got my words wrong. And then I cast it in Pewter, and I showed them that's gonna be sort of my halfway through piece, and they quite like the idea. Then I produced like a collection of pewter jewelry to show them, and then I was lucky to get my pieces displayed in their museum space. And that's my first observation with my pewter process. And this year, because last year was sort of like a rush time, and but this year I think it was great for me to get back to the Pewter's live competition and rejoin it with the new theme and with my own approach. And personally, I'd like to sort of making different approaches to political issues, as I found out that this year's theme is Roaring Twenties, and like I did lots of research based on it. I found out that surrealism was happening during that time, and I was inspired by those collages of broken limbs and that inspired from the walls. And I came out with an idea about maybe I can make something that creates optical illusion and showing this sort of broken limbs or twisting sort of visual references. And then I did my idea, like I came up with different sort of development drawings based on this sort of forms and twisting idea, and I made a collage and all kind of responses within this idea. And then I keep continuing with my previous technical skills. I did a 3D drawing and I printed out in PLA and I cast it in Pewter to create this sort of layered surface, and also to represent the broken body limbs as a visual references to the wearer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I was looking at, is it hinged to get it on and off the wrist? How does it actually?
Oh, so
quite work out how it goes on.
So I cast it in two parts. So as you can see, the front base is more like is showing an image, and the back base is like an open up bit so that you can fit your arm inside the piece. So then you can wear it. Yeah.
Is it comfortable?
And it's a bit heavy, to be honest, but as a statement piece, when people wear it to maybe parties or shows or whatever, they should be comfortable, as long as it's not designed as a everyday piece. So no.
I mean, I quite like the idea that it's there when you're talking about, like broken limbs and all that sort of thing, and that wartime and all that you have a piece that sort of gives you an impression of, or it carries that narrative with it. Quite interesting. Very, very nice. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I do like working with pewter. I like the shiny surface and all the glamorous that caught other people's attention, especially with my jewelry. It's a statement piece, and I'd like to catch people's attention by pewter's materiality. And I do like to observe different sort of materials quality, like for different purposes. Yeah, I do enjoy working with pewter.
Like you say, it's a very tactile object for the body to wear, isn't it? It's very tactile material.
Yeah.
No, it's lovely. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
For explaining it to us. It's been great, and best of luck with everything. I think we can now go on, and I hope I pronounced this right. Thanapon?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Did I say it right?
Yes,
Thanapon?
correct. Yes.
Oh, lovely,
Hello.
lovely. You're also a master's student from
Yes.
Camberwell.
Yes.
And your piece is called Glimmering Light of the 20s.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
It's
So
a fan. Yeah.
would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah. Okay. So I have working with this project, like with this design for a while. It's a fan, like metal fan. So Liberty asked me to like, oh, do you want to join this competition? Because the theme and my design is like really, it can be together, you know. And I think it's really great opportunity for me to start working with metal, because before I never worked with metal before. Yeah, and this is like my first time, and I think it's really great to start with pewter because it's really easy to work with. It's really soft, so I can manage to use my Dremel to like cut and pierce it. Yeah. So my project is all about how to enhance the shininess of the material, and I use the form of fan because it when I don't know, it's when you fan it, when you like interact with it, you're gonna like get this like effect. Yeah, and it kind of like enhance the quality of the shininess of the material. And at first I got this mock-ups, and I don't know yet how should I use the material for. So I think, yeah. Yeah. And the pattern, I got it from Art Deco era. So it's like a perfect line and geometric shape. So when it combined with the shininess of the material, it's kind of like give the vibe of the luxury and the high status of the user of the fan. Yeah.
I like the way you talk about the luxury and high status.
Yes.
Within
Yes.
Art Deco, that was very important to the style, the idea of
Yes.
of luxury and status.
Yes.
I was quite fascinated. I mean, you've got a lovely surface on that. How did you find polishing the metal?
At first, I don't know how to polish the pewter, but I mean, after I do some research, I use polishing cream to polish the pewter. But to be honest, it's not that great because I polish it with my hand, and I need to polish it piece by piece, which is like really time consuming.
Yes.
But I think the pewter can be as shine as silver, isn't it? Like it can be really satisfying when finished. Yeah.
You can get it like a mirror.
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
have patience because
Yeah.
obviously pewter marks very easily, so you need patience to keep going. So
Yes,
yeah, I was very
yes.
impressed that you managed to get
Yeah.
such a good finish. What was I going to say? No, I can't find it. I think you covered everything I was going to ask.
Yeah, actually, I submit to design, but the other one I haven't finished it yet. I only got the mock-ups. Yeah, I want to redesign the disco ball. So I come up with like new shape of the disco ball, but this is like really big pieces, and I haven't managed to finish it on time because the campus is closed and the workshop is closed, and I don't have enough equipment. But it's really fun to think about how I will manage to like work with pewter and like soldering and polishing it. Yeah, it's really good start. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's lovely that you're actually continuing working with it. I think that's really nice. I mean, I think I asked this for somebody at one point, but do you think you might do the pewter open at some point? You think you might like
next
to do more
year.
competitions?
Yeah, it's really fun to work with this material, because I mean you can mold it, you can work with it at home and use like heating at home. It's really easy to
All sorts of things.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Wish you all the luck for the
Thank you so much.
competition. And now, I mean, it's great now that we've got a tutor. So it'd be nice to talk to Stephen Sheffield, who's a tutor at Buckinghamshire. Have I missed somebody? No? No? Okay, I can see Alyssa's head shaking there. So, yeah, it'd be lovely to speak to Stephen Sheffield, because I think it'd be nice to get a tutor's viewpoint of working with Pewter, and also the competition and how they go about it as Bucks, because they join it. They do the competition nearly every year, from what I can gather, or for many years. So yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, one of the students that I think you were going to have on this evening was Greg, and he's one of our ex-students as well. But yeah, we do run Pewter Live course here for the second year students every year, and it's been something that second years have traditionally been involved with for many years now, I think. I inherited the course last year in the middle of COVID, and I didn't expect really we would come unstuck in the midst of our Pewter projects when we desperately needed the workshops, but that's what happened. And at one point I did think we would just be submitting CAD work. Thankfully that wasn't the case, and both Ben and Charlotte here managed to get into the workshop, and Sophia, our other student, managed to get into the workshop to produce some good quality pieces at the end of the day. And I know it's their first time dealing with Pewter. It's actually my first time dealing with Pewter as well. So it was a bit of a baptism of fire. But what I was really pleased with was the fact that, you know, when we're designing product, doesn't matter what the material is, there's a constant stream of pitfalls, and it's a case of engaging with those pitfalls and learning a way to get over them and carry on with the process, which I thought they all did admirably, really. And there were some significant issues along the way which we faced, and these guys, and a few late nights, they did actually crack on through. I can't really take the credit for what they've produced, though. That goes to them. The tutors that were really involved on the ground floor were Grant Forsyth, who I believe, I'm not sure if he's here this evening, but I believe he is in constant contact with Pewter Live, and he does usually check in with you every year. And also Richard Harlow, who's our PhD student here, and also a member of the technical staff, member of the teaching staff here. The credit really for tuition and for the help should fall to Grant and to Richard. Richard, I think, is here somewhere.
I think it's been amazing, and they've done an awful lot. I mean, I know when I used to do Pewter Live with the students, you know, I used to get so much out of it and learning about stuff. I mean, I assume you get the same buzz. I don't know.
Did you get the same buzz?
Buzz.
Yeah, that's a big yes.
That's a B. yeah, that's great. Well, it was quite interesting. I was watching one of the talks yesterday, and they were talking about, you know, like, I know this happens, a lot of colleges have a problem with pewter because it's got this sort of reputation as a dirty metal and it contaminates and whatever. I just wonder how you manage it at Bucks.
Well, there were issues with refining and polishing, but I presume that is something that everyone experiences. And, you know, there were issues with regards to creating an ideal thickness of pewter. Charlotte's bowl, for instance, at one point we were talking about lining the inside of the bowl with a veneer of pewter, which we struggled with, you know, over a number of weeks to create a veneer of pewter that was thin enough. We did actually manage it in the end. We managed to roll our pewter down to, I think it's 0.1 of a millimeter. There were obstacles which we overcame, but there were some obstacles which we couldn't. But then again, that's part of the process of dealing with any material.
And also the lovely thing is each year you learn new things about it and you can push those through to the students. So you can't hear me, can you?
That's right.
Which is lovely. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's so nice to see you getting engaged with the students and encouraging them. So I don't know. I was just going to ask Alisa how we're doing for time and what we wanted to do. Any questions?
We still have time for a few questions, and actually a few questions have come in. So one question for all the students will be, as their first experiment with Pewter, are they encouraged to continue to work with it now? Who wants to answer this question?
Yeah, I'd definitely love to work with it more. It's such a beautiful, easy, malleable material to work with. It's just, it lends itself to so many different like techniques and sort of designs. My design, I thought, oh goodness, I'm not going to be able to make it. But because of the malleability of the material, it just really worked, which was very impressive for me because it just like never used it before.
Beautiful. Anyone else wants to answer this question?
I'm just going to say that it's okay to use pewter in a silver workshop as long as you wipe it all down with baby wipes and stuff, because that's what I did. I made my pewter hands at home because we'd gone into COVID lockdown. And I know there was one of the speakers before saying you have to be so careful if you're in a silver workshop, but you can still use the pewter, and I have done, and I think, you know, I still will be using pewter for many years to come, hopefully.
Nice. It's great to know. Steve, anybody? Ben?
Yeah, I would like to work with Pewter again. In this project, unfortunately, I couldn't finish it because I changed my project halfway through. But I do plan to finish it once we get our entrance back. So yeah, I'm definitely planning on working with it again. So hopefully.
Yeah, I would certainly love to work with it again, especially with combining it with ceramics. I would love to further that process and see how I can sort of push materials to their boundaries, because I'm really interested in that. So yeah.
So another question that has just come up is, would you use a different technique if you have had a greater access to workshop post-COVID, or if you'll have a greater access post-COVID? I mean, Ben, I'm also looking at you because, of course, you've had a few challenges. So you couldn't submit your first piece as well.
I would do for my original project of a letter opener and letter rack, but ultimately I wouldn't, just because it's going through that process that made that accident which crystallized the pewter. And hopefully through there I can better manipulate it and replicate it again and have more control over it. So for the original project I would, but you know, long term I'm happy with what happened, even if it was a bit of a heartache, but I'm happy with what I ended up with.
It's really nice to hear. Actually, I have a comment. Tanapond Suktana, she, of course, all the students this year, they have sent us some videos of themselves. And if you haven't checked our website, please do so, because it is really, really amazing to see these guys working on the piece. And I could see that you, Tanapond, you have worked on your piece in your
my room.
In your room.
Yeah.
So how is it to convert your own bedroom?
Yeah. So at first I planned to cut it myself, but because everywhere is closed. But at the end I sent the pewter sheet for laser cutting. So it's faster and it's easier for me. But I mean I still need to sand it and polish it myself. So it's challenging to like turn my room into the workshop and work with it, but it's fun. You know, we have to adjust ourselves to the situation. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And one last question, Trish, for the students. what are the qualities of pewter that were most helpful and enjoyable for your pieces? Anyone who hasn't answered any question before? Let me just have a look. Who wants to answer this question? Maybe Liberty, do you wanna answer this question? So the question is, what are the qualities of pewter that were most enjoyable for your pieces?
One of the best quality I would say is the shiniest, and it brings value into my piece through the material side. And as well, I'm more like compromise. I would like to compromise like my conceptual message through my design as well. So it's like a both sword that help me to kind of open up or draw attention from the audiences or bring joy to the wearer of my jewelry pieces. Yeah.
And what was the biggest challenge you faced?
And one of the challenge is the mold making part. Because sometimes if the pewter wasn't fluid or wasn't heated up enough, so then it won't really go through the mold, or some bits won't cast it out that nicely. So I have to figure it out whether I have to carve the channels in the mold or maybe create a different type of mold. Because pewter I've been mainly working in the foundry at uni. So I've been doing lots of wax work as well as pewter. And these days, throughout experiments, I realized that wax is flew inside the mold is different from pewter. Pewter is more like a horizontal way, whereas wax is more like a vertical way. So the mold is different, and I have to sort of understood the inner structure of the mold. So yeah.
Wow.
It is time consuming, and I did a lot of experiments, and different material came out with different sort of outcomes. Yeah.
That's great. We are receiving a lot of amazing comments for you all guys to say, well done to all the students, just keep playing. Excellent to see pewter being used in such a modern and vibrant manner. And one of the questions I would like to ask Steve, who has been extremely helpful throughout this process, to be honest. Our question is, are you looking forward to next year Pewter Live? And are you gonna suggest any of your other students to work with pewter again, because it was your first time this year, wasn't it, as well, you mentioned earlier?
It was, yeah, and as I say, we run the pewter module every year, so it will be run again next year for our current first years when they're second years. But equally, these guys, the second years with me at the moment, Charlotte and Ben, you know, the workshop is open to them. So if they want to continue to explore with pewter and develop the skills that they've generated so far, then the workshop awaits them.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Trish, do you wanna ask any more questions, or?
Well, at this stage, I think it was lovely the question that Lynn talked about, that you asked on the complexities that they had to overcome. I mean, you could have a whole new conversation on that, I think.
Yeah.
And it's lovely to know that there's tutors out there that have got the same enthusiasm and wish to carry it on, and I think that bodes well for Pewter Live in the future. So I'd like to thank them all. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to them, and I wish everyone all the best today and also in the future to keep working.
Brilliant. Well, Trish, thank you for chairing a really, really fascinating discussion, and well done to all these students. You've done amazing things under quite difficult circumstances, but you persevered, and it's just been brilliant. It's wonderful to see what you've entered into the competition. So thank you all very much indeed. Now, we're going to move on to the judging process and the awards. So I'd like to just, if I may, introduce the judges that we've had on the panel today. And a little bit of background about them. Mark Meltonville is a food historian with the Historic Royal Palaces in England. He trained in ceramic history, form and construction. And he's worked in museums for over 20 years in education, exhibition design, and more lately, interpretation. A chance meeting with a noted food historian led him to be involved in the first experiment with live history cookery at Hampton Court in 1991. And he's been working with the historic royal palaces ever since. Absolutely fascinating man if you ever get to sit next to him at dinner. Several projects have seen him involved with numerous TV and radio programs, along with lecturing across the US and North America.
No, it doesn't.
Another of our judges, Sam Williams of the A.E. Williams, born into a Pewter Smith family, and he has been living amongst the world of pewter manufacturing since the age of 5. He officially started with A.E. Williams in Birmingham at the age of 17, and then he gradually learned about the many different processes from working with pewter under his father's guidance, making him the 7th generation of the company. Sam has worked with many different influential customers since starting with his family company, including the likes of the historic royal palaces, the White House, Warner Brothers, and Universal Studios. Working his way up through to a sales role within the company, Sam is now often seen exhibiting at many different trade shows across the UK, North America, and Japan. Another judge of ours, Angus Patterson, is the senior curator of metalwork at the Victoria and Albert Museum, and he's responsible for the museum's collection of European base metals and arms and armour, which include the national collections of pewter, brass and cutlery, and world-renowned wide collections of decorated armour and weapons. He lectures and publishes regularly, and recently he acquired for the V&A a spectacular pewter basin produced in 1807 as a model for use in the workshops of various colleges. Finally, Rosemary Wildash has always been interested in the creative arts, and on leaving school took a foundation course at Epsom School of Art. Although enjoying it, she realised that a career in this field was rather precarious, I should say, and headed, it could be curious as well, and headed in other directions, but was always determined to do something creative when time allowed. She has now achieved this ambition by enrolling in a jewellery and silversmithing course in 2007, and she now enjoys working from her garden studio, designing and making one-off pieces, mainly in silver and often using semi-precious stones. She had the privilege of being the Mistress Pewterer in 2005 and 2006, and during her years of involvement with the company, she has particularly enjoyed Pewter Live and its belief in encouraging students to fulfil their potential, and we've certainly seen that tonight. So I'm now delighted to hand over to the Master, who will announce the prizes and the winners of both the Open and the Students' competition of Pewter Live 2021. Over to you, Master.
Thank you very much indeed, Izzy. And I think you're getting the wrong screen at the moment. Unfortunately, we've got, I'm back, but I'm not on the main screen for you. The main screen seems to have stuck with Trish, so you better not do anything there, Trish, because everybody's got you as their main screen at the moment. So hang on there. And you'll hear my voice, but probably you can see me in a little picture somewhere. So I'd like to thank all our sponsors and partners for their confidence in being part of Pewter Live 2021. The Worshipful Company's vision would not have become a reality without the huge commitment and active contribution from our sponsors, our partners, over many years, and there's, of course, as well, from all the people who have entered into Pewter Live over the years. I'm not quite sure now how we build up the tension in the style of one of the shows that you get, these reality shows, that we now announce the prizes and build up the tension as we go. So this is how it's going to work. For the student competition, we will have the City and Guilds Learner Prize, which is for sponsored by the City and Guilds, and will be announced by Mr. Michael Ozabaldeston. That will be followed by the student competition winner, which is a first prize of £500 and a second runner-up prize of £250, sponsored by the Worshipful Company of Pewterers, and will be announced by Isabel. The Ken Target Prize, which is an award for the first time in memory of a well-known pewterer, a member of this company for many years, Mr. Ken Target. It's a £1,000 prize sponsored by his family, the Target family, and will be announced by his daughter, Sarah Target. The Niche Memorial Award for Design is also for the student competition. It's £1,000 and will be sponsored by Patricia Niche, who will be joining us in from Spain and has asked me to announce the winner. We now come to the open competition. Now, the open competition, the first prize is the ABC prize, which is a factory visit to one of the members of the ABPC and will be announced by Isabel Martinson. The second prize in the open competition will be the winner, which is a £500 prize sponsored by the Worshipful Company of Pewterers, which I will have the honour to announce. And the Best in Show prize, which is also for an open competition and is the Pewterers Award and a £750 prize. And also, you won't be able to see this as well, which is a special prize, which is the Pewterers Strake, which has been specially made, and then what's the term where they put it inside a encapsulated, that's right. That was, you can't hear him off screen, but the man who's responsible for it, Mr. Pastmaster Paul Wildash, who has arranged for this wonderful prize, which will be given as the Best in Show prize, will be engraved and can be kept by the winner. Right, so have we built up the tension now? So, right, I've told you how it's going to work. I've got it's not quite like the Oscars because I don't have to open up envelopes. I've got it all here now in front of me. So I hope that we have got, for the City and Guilds Learner Prize for the student competition, will be announced by Mr. Michael Osbaldeston, the Special Advisor and Skills Ambassador. Are you with us, Michael?
I am indeed, Master, and thank you very much indeed, and good evening to absolutely everybody. And if you can't see me, it's your advantage. I forgot to arrange the drum roll behind me, but here goes anyway. And it's always a joy and it's always a privilege to join one of City and Guild's founding livery companies. And the excellent work of the Pewterers and the Pewter Live competition demonstrates once again what a wonderful organisation the Pewterers are and how the support for the craft continues. Excellent work again this year. Shame we can't be there to see it, but we can do it online, which is, you know, a great second best. But we do normally thoroughly enjoy the chance to be with you, to meet you all and to talk with you. Now, the Roaring Twenties, the competition for the students, what a fantastic one to go for there. And it really did live up to its name this year. Such an exciting range of ideas. Very difficult choice, but I have to say that in the end, the decision that we made for the City and Guilds Prize this year deservedly goes to Georgia Basham for espresso cups. We loved the combination of the ceramic and the pewter, and it demonstrated Georgia's considerable skills and talents to perfection. They were delicate, they were functional, they were lovely lines, excellent recreation of the Roaring Twenties and just as relevant to the 2020s too. So congratulations, Georgia. And on behalf of City and Guilds, can I wish you every best wish for what will definitely be a very impressive career. Well done.
Thank you so much. That means so much to me. I don't know whether I was supposed to prepare anything, but thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much indeed, Michael. That was definitely a wonderful prize, and I'm sure if you were here, there would be a photographer with us. But I'm sorry that we can't do that for you, Georgia. But congratulations. on winning that prize.
Thank you very much.
So now we come to the student competition winner, and that will be announced together with a drum roll by Isabel Martinson.
Right, good evening again, everyone. Right, well, the judges have awarded the runner-up to the student for the time, effort, passion and skill put into handcrafting the piece. This was what was recognised by the judges. They commend the level of skill and potential application for the open competition in the future from the standard of the piece presented. And the prize goes to Fanapond Suknana for her Glimmering Light of the 20s handheld fan. Very well done.
Thank you so much.
Oh.
Thank you. Yeah.
And the winner of the first prize, for which they get £500, for the clean lines and for the fact that the piece takes the 1920s theme and turns it into something contemporary. Judges appreciated the potential commercial value for the piece in production. And the prize goes to Georgia Basham again for her espresso capo sets. Well done, Georgia.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Well, I don't think if this is going to go like this, Georgie, I think definitely you're going to need a speech.
Well, what can I say? I've got quite a few people to thank. Firstly, my tutor, Rajesh Gogna, who actually encouraged me to enter, and for all the support by the De Montfort University workshop technicians who have helped me along the way and have shown me how to take advantage of all these processes to put them into one final piece and just to make it so effective. And yeah, just thank you to everybody who's helped me along the way, and I've just looked forward to continuing.
Well done.
Well done. Thank you very much. Now we come to the Ken Target Prize for student, and will be in memory of, as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Ken Target, who was a well-known pewterer and member of the Worshipful Company, and it will be announced by his daughter, Sarah Target, who's sitting here on my left.
Thank you, Master. As mentioned, Ken Target was a pewter manufacturer, the late Ken Target, and he was also, before he became a pewter manufacturer, owner of a light engineering company that made casting machines that produced centrifugal casting techniques for a variety of metals. One of those was pewter. He was selling the machines to others and thought that he would be able to do a better quality of casting in pewter than what he was seeing from his customers. So that was the beginning of his pewter manufacturing process. He developed centrifugal casting techniques to quite a high degree, which enabled his company to produce very high quality and very detailed pieces in pewter across a wide range of giftware and military models and things of that nature. He was a dedicated member of the Worshipful Company of Pewterers, and he thoroughly enjoyed his membership here. Part of what he was particularly involved in was the promotion of the trade, forerunner being involved in the Association of British Pewter Craftsmen. And he was one of those who originally set up the Pewter Live competition 33 years ago. So I am absolutely delighted to have been involved in helping put some of the elements of this competition together. And my sisters, Nicole and Bethan, we wanted to be able to commemorate an element of Pewter Live that my father had been most interested in, and that is encouraging students to experiment and use pewter, so that we are going to continue to enhance the design element and the collectability of pewter items. So that is the reason why we wanted to sponsor a student prize, and we were very pleased to have a look at the entries, and there was some very nice things there. We did all agree in the end, which is quite unusual for Nicole, Beth and I to agree on anything, but we have. And absolutely delighted to award the Target Memorial Prize to Charlotte Newton for her punch bowl. And Charlotte, it was lovely to hear your further story earlier on this evening with your telling us a little bit more about it. So very, very many congratulations. We think it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that. I really wasn't expecting to win anything in comparison to all the other amazing pieces. And I just want to say a thank you to Grant Forsyth, the lecturer, who showed me how to use Pewter, really encouraged me with my design. And a huge thank you to Steve and Richard Harlow, who really helped me with my piece. A lot of late nights, a lot of hard work, and very thankful for that. Very thankful for the opportunity here at Pewter Live. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So I should also tell you that, and I should have announced that possibly before I said that award, that without Sarah's involvement also, not only with the prize, of course, but she has chaired the Pewter Live committee that has put this wonderful association event together this week. So I think not only should we thank her for a generous prize, but also for an awful lot of work in putting this event on. Thank you, Sarah. Now, I think actually I'm going to what is termed an amber country now. We're all getting traffic lights, but I'm off to Spain because the next award is the Niche Memorial Award for Design. And Patricia Niche has given this very generous gift in memory of her husband, who was a great collector of pewter. And she's had to do this from Spain, and she's given it very carefully considered, all the entries via Zoom. And she looked for entries which represented the Roaring Twenties, and she also sought something that has a future and loved the design for, are you ready for this now? The Pewter Coffee Cup Holders by Georgia Basham. Well done, George.
Oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting that. Thank you.
So that's
That's a great honour. Thank you so much.
Not only that side, but also by somebody who has been collecting pewter for, I think, 30 or 40 years.
Oh,
so
goodness.
To actually have them also choose your design, I'm sure is a great honour.
Thank you. It just means so much to me that so many people have appreciated it. Just from that small concept, it's come into so much. Yeah.
Well, congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
But I can tell you that unfortunately now we're moving to the open, so there's no more surprises, Georgia. So the ABC prize, which is a factory visit to one of the APC companies, will now be announced by Isabel.
Thank you, Master. Well, the judges have awarded the ABPC prize to the entry because of the simple and effective piece and the delicate interplay of light on the porcelain. And I'm really, really delighted to announce that the ABPC prize goes to designer Nadine Van Oost. Very well done, Nadine. And having seen you at the ABPC meetings from Belgium over the last few months, it's really, really a great delight to offer you this, this prize. So Elisa will be in touch with you afterwards to arrange that visit.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm very happy. Thank you.
Good. Well, I'm sure that whoever hosts you at their company will make it a special, very special event for you. We now come to the open competition winner, which will receive a prize of £500, and it's sponsored by the Worshipful Company of Pewterers. The judges have awarded this prize because it fitted the brief, the fact that it is playful and quirky, it incorporates a good use of mixed finishes and encourages one to think about pewter in a very different way. The open competition for 2021 goes to The Real McCoy by designer Jonathan Daniels. Do we have Jonathan with us?
Hello.
Yes, we do. Well done, Jonathan. Hello.
Oh my God. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. Thank you very much, guys.
We now come to the Best in Show prize. Sounds a bit like Crufts, doesn't it? Which is a prize of £750 and also this rather magnificent trophy, which, as I said, has the pewter strake encapsulated here, and it has the name on the bottom, which will be engraved and presented, and you can keep this award. It doesn't have to be returned to us. So here we go. The judges have awarded the Best in Show prize because the entrant competitor has identified pewter as the perfect material for design, which would not have been as effective in other materials. It's interestingly storytelling, encourages contemplation of the piece, and is just beautiful. Best in Show prize for 2021 goes to the designer, Judith Godden, for her prize, the Roaring Twenties Clock. I don't know if we have Judith with us.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much. I am absolutely flabbergasted. Obviously, I come from a different background, as I explained in my little video. I'm a scientist. I work in the NHS. I look after ethics committees for clinical studies. And I spend my evenings playing around with pewter and absolutely love it. One day it would be lovely to be able to spend more time working with pewter. This is an absolute honour, and so thank you very much. Some of my inspiration has come from a lot of your members. I bought Fleur Gurney's book quite a few years ago, and it's been a major inspiration. And also, a couple of years ago, I came down to London to the Pewter Live competition then and spoke with a number of your members. So a great honour. Thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you. And again, congratulations to all of the winners tonight and also to everyone that's taken part. There's been some absolutely amazing pieces and, you know, it's very, very difficult to choose the winners. So, you know, we really do appreciate, and if you didn't win tonight, you know, well done anyway for taking part. There are no losers. Everybody's, you know, done a wonderful job, and I'm sure you've learned an awful lot. Now, this brings us sort of to the end of tonight's live session and also to the end of Pewter Live 2021. I would like to thank everybody that's been involved, from the students, from the open competition, from the sponsors, and everybody, but particularly here, there's been a huge amount of work done at the hall by our new assistant clerk, Elisa, who has been supporting Sarah, as I mentioned, as chairman of the Pewter Live committee, and also Izzy Martinson, who chairs our Pewter promotion committee. And so not only has the company supported its trade, again, in a very, you know, special way. It isn't exactly how we normally celebrate Pewter and Pewter Live, but I've just noticed there are some very small screens, and in front of me are these screens. And I've just seen somebody who will remain nameless. It looked as if he was drinking champagne. So obviously, that's what we expect you now to go and do, is to go and enjoy and celebrate this, the wonderful event that we've had for the last 3 days. So I can't invite you to, join us again tomorrow, as I have done every evening, but I can invite you to join us again for Pewter Live 2022. So I'm sure it will be a hybrid event, because we've learned so much during the last 3 days about the advantages of bringing you all together so you can learn about pewter. So I'm sure that will be part of Pewter Live 2022, but we will also be able to invite you back into the hall and celebrate here, so that the prize winners will actually be able to receive their prize from a VIP, not from me on Zoom. So with that, may I wish you all a very happy, and I'm not wishing you all a good journey home, because I think most of you are there, but certainly go and celebrate now. As I said, get out the champagne, you winners, and make the most of the evening. We will be in touch with all the winners to make sure that they get their prizes. So congratulations, everybody, and have a wonderful evening. See you next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Master. Thank you, Elisa.
Good night, everyone. Good night.
One day, I remember.
Really?
Good night, everyone. Well done, the team.